variables can be used for anything. They can be used to indicate feedback, they can be used to drive macros, they can be used for room combining, or they can be used for a volume level. There's a couple different ways to create a variable. The first way to create a variable is going to be through room control options. You can also create variables under custom pages when you are building custom pages and say creating custom buttons. So first off, I'm going to show you room control options because this is pretty much where you start. So we'll click room control options, we'll go to variables, and we see that we have room variables, we have global variables, and you also have device variables. So if you have created a driver or you're using one of our drivers, you'll see that this might have some variables and I can do some things based on the status of these variables. For instance, if the device is connected and that value is high, then I can show maybe show something on my touch panel. I can show the display on my touch panel. But room variables are used for the individual room, not where I want to keep the variables isolated. I'm not going to be using them in other rooms, but they're only going to be for this room. It's good for organizational purposes that you keep them in this room. Global variables are variables that can be used all over your project. So if you're going to be, say, doing room combining and you're going to be creating multiple scenarios, then you might want to create those variables as global variables, and that way you can get to them from any of the room combinations. So under room variables, I'm going to click the plus button. It's going to ask me for a new variable name. I'll type source since that's going to be a variable that'll be used in the next lesson. I'll click OK, and you'll see that it creates the variable and it creates a default value, and it also have a section for what the current value is. The default value can be set to anything, and the value itself can be set to anything. The value can either be a 0 or a 1, or it can be some text string that you want to display. As I said, it can be used for labeling your buttons, and so if I set this to text, then I can put any text I want here. As an example of where we're using variables to drive macros, I'm going to go to a room, to a project that I did a while ago, and we can see here we're doing a 4-way room combining system where there's multiple rooms, there's a full room, there's a couple different combinations of rooms. And so if I go and look at training area north, we can see here under room control options and macros, when I want to go to a all open scenario or open all the rooms up or full, then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set variables. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not driving touch panels or anything like that. I'm setting variables. And the reason I'm doing that and setting variables in the rooms is because all my touch panels are linked to the main room. My touch panels are linked to the full room. So all I'm going to do in these outlying rooms is just drive a variable high or low. And then if we come and look at training area full and room control options, and I come look at macros, now we create conditions to which a macro will run. So if I come up here and look at rooms full, we can see that I have conditions set up that when these variables are all 0, then it's going to do something. And that, if I come and look at what I'm doing, I'm using the navigate room feature for the touch panels to drive the touch panels to a scenario. So I'm driving it to the full combination, I'm driving it to the home page. And so that's kind of how you start with variables, some ideas of what variables are used for. As I said, in custom pages, you can also create variables. So up here in the top upper right hand corner, you have that same variables. You can click that and you would have your same variables. So there's my global variables. I'm in a different room, so you don't see that room variable that I created earlier called source. So Again, room variables keep things isolated to the room you're currently working in. Global variables can be used anywhere.